What up, everybody? Welcome back to Street Knowledge Podcast. It's your boy Big Boosie, man. The podcast that give you all the positive stuff and the great informative information. And we mixing it up with a lot of popular artists, big mainstream artists. Also with, people that's out here really in the street doing things in a positive way, in a positive manner, in real time, man. So y'all know what it is. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. What up? I'm back, man. Street Knowledge Podcast. This segment right here is one that I really had to do because it's about women that don't get acknowledged enough out here. And it's all about our women, man. If it wasn't for women, this planet wouldn't be spinning on this earth. So this segment, I call it Real Stand-Up Women. It's about women that actually been incarcerated. It's about women that actually was incarcerated that didn't do any telling or no snitching and held it down and came home and back into society and doing all the right things. So I got somebody real big for y'all right now. Her story is tremendous. It's heartfelt, and it's somebody that's about real things, and she actually was really outside doing real things in her younger days growing up. So y'all get ready. I got something hot for y'all. Big, very interesting. A great person, a great friend of mine. Her name is Ebony Thomas, man. Y'all give it up for Ebony Thomas, man. What's up, E? What's going on?
Good afternoon, fam.
Good afternoon. So yeah, well, this is my first segment of Real Stand-Up Women. And I've been telling you I was gonna do that for the longest, but we had to shut down for a minute, due to the bad COVID situation and stuff. So now we back, man. And I told you, you're gonna be the first that I grab, and you're gonna be the first that I grab, man. So tell us let the people out there know about Ebony growing up as a young woman and where she come from.
All right. I grew up, first, I'm from a very country town called Dayton, North Carolina. I grew up there as a younger woman, and then I left, like when I was in the 7th grade, I moved to High Point, North Carolina.
Right.
I grew up in High Point, and I went to high school in High Point. And I jumped off the porch in High Point.
Wow. So that was my thing. I wanted to ask you, how was school? How was your schooling growing up? Did you stay the whole 12 years, or being that you said you jumped off the porch early, what was jumping off the porch early for Ebony?
Well, jumping off the porch for me was actually when I graduated from high school. But doing all through my high school years, I used to skip school. I barely graduated from high school. I had to go to night school to graduate from high school. So I had started kind of on a bad track my 12th grade year.
Right.
Started hanging out with the wrong crowd around about my 12th grade year. That's when my life started to turn.
Right. So
My 12th grade year.
So that's when life started changing. So okay, so at this point we could say Ebony was a strong-minded young woman doing things that the average 12th grader wouldn't be doing.
At first, see, when I was raised by my grandmother, and I was in modeling school. I took all different types of dance, from ballet, tap, jazz. I didn't grow up with a bad background. I make sure that I tell people that I chose the path that I went. I come from a very good family. But like I said, I started hanging out, and I met a guy. He was much older than me. He was like 6 years older than me when I graduated from high school. And he was like one of the biggest drug dealers in High Point at the time.
Right.
And he introduced me to basically the game.
Okay. So how long was you and that guy together, particularly?
Off and on for over at least 10 years.
So basically, it's safe to say he kind of molded you to the streets and taught you a little bit of that street knowledge that you have or?
Oh, he definitely taught me. He taught me the game. He introduced me to selling drugs. And I didn't know anything about selling drugs until I met him. I didn't
Right.
know any. And
Okay.
once I met him, he taught me the whole game about selling drugs. And I started selling drugs in 1996. I caught my first drug conviction, prison conviction, in 1998.
1998.
12 months. Yes. I was in my 20s then. So I went to prison at an early age for the first time due to a drug conviction.
That wasn't that was your first time, or the
That
first
was
and
my
last?
first time.
First and last time?
No, I went to prison twice.
Okay, we're gonna get into that. I don't want to cut you off. We're gonna get into that because that's where it gets serious. And I just had to know because I never knew. This is my first time. Long as I've known you for years, I didn't know you went to jail twice.
You didn't know me. I was younger then. That's why.
Right, and you never.
I was like about 25.
Wow, and you never brought that
21.
up. Right, I didn't know that. See, that's something new to me. All right, cool. So now you and the first guy that you learned street life from, and y'all broke up or whatever, and you you probably dated another man, or well, I know you have dated other men. You're a grown woman, so you having a strong mind, as a strong-minded woman. What was it like dating men that know that you're strong-minded? Could they handle your strong mental, being a alpha woman, real dominant mentally?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because the thing about most men, they can't accept women that make their own money. Like a lot of men take that as, some men get jealous. Some men, and me, see, I knew how to make my own money.
Right.
And that's what made relationships kind of difficult for me because I never needed a man for absolutely anything. Most of the time, I supplied them, and that's just being honest.
Right.
So most of the time, men couldn't handle because I was dealing with other men when I would do business. So it didn't go good for me as like being in a relationship. And that was me. That's why I didn't really have no relationship all during the time when I was selling drugs because most of the time, guys didn't want me dealing with other guys. And that wasn't going to happen because I was going to make my money regardless.
Right. So that was the flack, or should I say that was the elbow into a relationship. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to find out, when did you jump off the track of doing your own thing as a boss? Once you learned from your first guy.
Once I learned, there was no turning back. I started selling drugs in Daniel Brooks, High Point, North Carolina. And I was young. Like I said, I had just graduated from high school.
Right.
About 20 years old. And I was going, at the time, that was like one of the worst projects in High Point. I was going over there, breaking ounces down, selling them out of crackhead houses. I had that whole neighborhood on smash. And I was doing that by myself.
Wow.
The game showed me how to weigh, bag up. That was it. That's all I needed to see. And once he showed me that, I just piggyback off what he showed me, and I took off. I took off.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I used to see you in something fly all the time. If it wasn't the gear, something riding nice. That's a fact. So, what's the life lessons of a queen pin about?
That's the life lessons that, and that's why I go around now and I speak to the youth. That's all I do. I try to educate the youth because they don't know the real story. And the thing is they don't know, like me. I was sentenced to 10 years. I did 10 years, and then I was sentenced off a sentencing grid. And that's one thing that I know the youth don't know about. They don't talk about that in rap songs. They don't tell you that. See, what I did, as I was getting in trouble all my life, I did not know at the time that I was racking up I was building a level. It's levels to getting sentenced.
Right.
And as I kept getting in trouble, I didn't know that it was, making me a prior higher record level, to get sentenced. And that's one of the main things I want to inform the youth about, that you don't know about. You might be thinking that you're getting away, but no. You're going to have to one day go in front of a judge, and he's going to pull that sentencing shit out, And it's no way around it. Like I tell people, the only way around that innocent kid is me. If you are a proud level 6, you're going to prison.
Right.
Things about it. That's what I was. I was a proud level 6. And the thing about it, there's no way around it. And you can sit, and I had the best attorney, and all that attorney can do is get you your minimum. That's it.
Right.
My minimum is 10 years.
Wow. And I tell people that all the time. When you hustling in them streets, you need to really study what you're doing out there, so you'll know what you're facing.
So you know the law. And see, I didn't know the law, and I'll be honest, and that's what I tell people. I was ignorant to the law, so that's what I'm out. I'm going out into the community, these low-income communities, and I want to educate them. That's the thing. Nobody never told me that my prior level is going to give me a lot of time. Nobody never told me that one day it's going to add up and I was going to have to owe the 60. See, that's what you do. When you keep racking up sentencing, all you're doing is really gaining up what you're going to have to one day owe the system.
Right.
There's no way around it. And that's what I said. I wasn't, even when I had my attorney to put me on the stand, I should have never been on the stand.
Right.
I should have never been on the stand for them to be able to ask me anything. And see, I incriminated myself. When I got on the stand, there was 2 ladies that was on my jury, and they told my mother, "Why did she say that?" You know, they felt like that I was innocent. But when I got on the stand and willingly admitted, I said, yes, that was not my marijuana, but those were my 3 ecstasy pills that I dropped on the ground.
Right.
I'm thinking, ecstasy pills, they would just put me like in a drug program, blah, blah, blah. That's what I thought. Honestly, I thought that. I would have never admitted that. I got up on the stand and it did it.
Your mic is going out. I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay, they only.
There we go. Make sure your hand not covering your mic.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Excellent.
And the thing about it, they only needed 1 conviction to give me the habitual. I had 7 convictions.
Right.
So all they needed was 1. When I got up on that stand and admitted to that 1, that I hung myself.
That did it.
I gave myself 10 years because I willingly admitted out my mouth. So what they did was, once I admitted that out my mouth, the DA didn't need anything. He did what's called an Alpo plea. It's not saying they're cured. It's not saying you're guilty, but it's saying that, well, I'm guilty of this because I admitted. So what they did was, it was called an Alpo plea. They stopped in the middle of my trial, and they already said, well, she's already admitted to that, so she's guilty of the ecstasy pills. So automatically that brought on the habitual felony, which gave me 10 to 12 years. But
right.
See, due to me being ignorant of the law, I hung myself. I should have never been on that stand. And guess what? And I had a powerful attorney. I had an attorney by the name of Waylon Cook out of Greensboro. He was known as one of the top attorneys out of Greensboro.
Right.
But that attorney, do you think that he stopped me from getting on that stand? No, it's all about money.
Right.
It's all about money. He could have stopped me. He knew that I had no business up on that stand.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
You have to educate yourself. That attorney, it's not his job to educate you. It's his job to do his job to make money, not to educate you. And
right.
That's the thing. We have to get educated. We need to know what we up against, what we facing. See, we just think that we out making fast money, that we selling drugs. It's other stuff to that.
Yes.
It's a lot that comes along with that.
Yes. I always tell my youth, it's a other side to it. All the cars, the glamour, the pretty girls, the jewelry, all that look good. You can do that for as long as you can do it. You can do it 20, 30 years. It take them one time to catch you. Then you're done. And I always tell them they need to study what they're doing, because it's a point system in the federal government when you're in that federal courtroom. It's a point system. And when they created that created a real downfall, because the majority of our color is going in there and they reaching that point system. Because like you said, it stacks up. If you did something from 2 years ago, then you get in trouble a year later after. All that adds up. So once it turns over to federal, they utilize all your old stuff and bring it up with your new stuff, and that's how they add those numbers up, and then it puts you in a bracket of how many years you are facing, and that's messed up. But
I don't mean to interrupt you, but not even just federal, because I did 10 years state. in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, there's no statute of limitations to your felonies. And that's what happened. My same conviction that I got in 1998, they used that same conviction in 2009 to help convict me of the habitual felon. The North Carolina law is a 3 strikes law, and that's what I was sentenced under, the habitual felon law, which is mean 3 strikes.
Right.
Once when the DA tried to get me to tell on someone. So after I refused to tell on who they wanted me to tell on, I got a letter 4 months later in the mail saying that I was going to be indicted by a grand jury. At first, I wasn't facing 10 years.
Right.
They came with me with a plea. I turned the plea down. I turned down who they wanted me to set somebody up. I refused that. So when I refused to be a snitch, what they did was, that's when they sent the letter in the mail. And because it's up to a jury, like if you on your third, they could have let that 3 strikes slide, but they didn't. They was upset with me already because I didn't want to work. So for their defense, what they used against me was say, well, okay, well, she don't want to work with us, we're going to indict her on the habitual felon. And so they indicted me on the habitual felon, and I went from facing 60 months to 120 months.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. So after you get your time, and I always ask this question, knowing, and you a female, so I know it's more rough on you guys as a female, but once again, you are a person that stepped off the porch early. You was really ahead of your time mentally, so you have both mentalities to think like a man as well and as a woman. So what was going through your mind when you first went in that prison system, knowing that you're going to be there for a long time?
To tell you the truth, the first thing that goes through your mind, to me, is who's going to die? Who's going to pass away while I'm in here? That's the first thing that clicked in my mind, because my grandmother raised me and my grandmother was older. And that's the first thing that went in my mind.
Right.
Honestly, I was like, damn, what if my grandmother passes away? And she did pass away. Mm-hmm. And see, those are the things that I be wanting the youth to understand. Like me, my grandmother raised me. That was who I called my mother. I wasn't able to go to my grandmother's funeral because her name was not on my birth certificate. She was not my legal guardian. My parents tried to, my mom, them tried to get all the paperwork they could get. Like even when they went back to my school records, showing that my grandmother's name was signed on my report card. Every report card I had. But they still would not use that because they said it wasn't legal. It wasn't legal documentation. So just that, when family members pass away, you gotta grieve in there. That's not a place for grieving. That's not a place for handling any type of death. It's not a place for, when you have to think, I was sentenced to 10 years. So it took about a year for that to even set in. And then I was sentenced to the most worst prison in North Carolina. I was sentenced to Central Prison, the Central Prison here in Raleigh.
Right in Raleigh. Right.
Yes. That's the largest female prison. That's there. You got people that's on death row. You got people was convicted. That's killed people, several people. I mean, that's the roughest prison in North Carolina.
Yeah, I didn't know they had a woman's side in Central Prison. They got, so it's men and women.
5 years.
Wow. That's big.
Before I even went to a lower honor grade.
So we're going to have this conversation again, and we're going to get more depth with the new things that you're doing. But real quick, tell me how you adapted to society when you came back out, and tell me what made, or when you started to actually know you want to teach the kids, and or go in the community and start speaking to these kids like you're doing right now. We got about 5 more minutes.
Okay, I knew it from the time I got out. I had already said I want to be able to help somebody where people didn't, like, a lot of people saw what I was doing, but nobody never pulled me to the side and say, yo, listen, you need to stop. Like, nobody never pulled me to the side and had a deep conversation with me and saying, listen, you doing this, you doing this. That's what I want to do with these youth. I want to sit and have a one-on-one, talk to them, find out what's going on, because I want somebody, if I can just stop one from going to a jail or a prison,
Then you doing
my
something.
work is not in vain.
That's big. That's big. Well, we're going to keep that going right here. I'm definitely bringing you back. We're not finished. We got more talking to do, because this is a big segment. Real stand-up women right here in Street Knowledge, man. And guess what, y'all? You won't get it no realer than the person that actually been there, man. She's been there, done that. Y'all look for her. Y'all gonna see me hanging with her too, running around and doing some of them community speakings, because that's what Street Knowledge is all about, man. And I appreciate your time, and definitely stay ready, because we coming back. We flooding
We
this.
get ready to do some big things, you and I.
Yes.
We get ready to attack all these communities with these youth. It's all about the youth. We gotta
Big.
stay. We gotta give back. It's about giving back to the community, making the community better. See,
Facts.
most of these, we have written off these communities. No, we can't write them off. And we have to do it. It's nobody else's responsibility but ours.
Well, guess
It's
what?
our community. It's
We
nobody
about-
else's responsibility. Don't leave our responsibility on somebody else. It's ours.
Well, guess what? We about to do it, and we about to take responsibility, man. So be ready. I'll see you, y'all. Street Knowledge Podcast. We'll be back with something else. Hot. Ebony will be back. Hit us up in the comments. Subscribe. And also hit that Cash App, man. This for the kids.